People, Officer Dunwoody here. Please have your identification card and boarding pass ready. Please take off all belts, jackets, and empty out your pockets. Make sure all liquids are under 3.4 ounces and remove your shoes. Thank you.
This is taking so long, even longer than when I usually fly with you, Amir.
Right this way, ma'am. Thank you. Spread your arms and legs. Next.
Can I get searched? Random search, please.
You don't need to. I would have searched you anyway. Come with me.
I really hope I don't miss my flight. Where are you headed?
Guatemala, to visit some family. I'm Rosa from Quanta, by the way. What's your name?
I'm Jen Jordan. I'm a human rights activist and I write poetry too.
Oh, you can go ahead of me. I'm not tired.
I just don't understand why you always have to volunteer yourself. It's almost as if you want them to think you're a terrorist.
How do they think that I am? I might as well just volunteer before they call me out themselves.
I normally wouldn't say this to an Arab, but that's awfully bright of you.
As I said in Disgrace, the next terrorist attack is probably going to come from a guy who looks like me. Like Crown Takaki said, he would argue that it's just a part of the master narrative.
I totally disagree. The next attack is going to come from some white guy who got a gun that he shouldn't have.
And pointing at a guy who looks like me.
If every person from Afghanistan started doing this, it would make my job a lot easier.
Actually from Pakistan.
Like it makes a difference.
Officer, no disrespect, but racial profiling discriminates against minorities. Imagine this. For people who aren't affected by racial profiling at airports, the TSA implements a new rule to counter drunken driving, which kills over 13,000 Americans every year. People who aren't Muslim have to go through a breathalyzer test before they enter their vehicle. But Muslims don't even drink alcohol, so they're exempt. Now that doesn't make sense, now does it?
We're going to go ahead and do the strip search now, ma'am, if you'd like to leave.
I remember back in the day, the security lines were a lot shorter and faster. And relatives could even see you off the gate.
Really? I've never been on the airplane before.
Yeah, according to the International Foundation for Protection Officers, there were loads of security changes after 9/11. For example, now you have to have a government ID even for domestic flights. We used to be able to have numerous carry-on items, but now just one carry-on and one small personal item.
What's 9/11?
Well, on September 11th, 2001, an Islamic terrorist group called Al-Qaeda hijacked American planes and crashed them into the World Trade Centers in New York and the Pentagon in D.C., killing over 3,000 Americans.
That wouldn't have happened if we kept immigrants out of this country. And I have an issue with the fact that we're all in the same line together. It doesn't make any sense.
Excuse me, who are you? Welcome to the 21st century.
Well, it would only make sense having people like me in one line and people like you in another line, since you guys are the ones causing trouble.
Who do you think you are?
I'm Justice Henry Brown, Supreme Court Justice back in the 19th century. I only served in some of the finest, most influential court cases in American history. Ever heard of Plessy versus Ferguson?
What's that?
Plessy versus Ferguson was a court case that I was a part of. Homer Plessy sat in an all-white train car to which he was not assigned. He brought it up to the Supreme Court, thus ending in the result of separate but equal.
That explains it, but for your information, those Jim Crow laws that you supported have been abolished. So you're going to have to deal with being in the same line as the rest of us.
I totally disagree with the TSA concept to prohibit racial profiling. Most of the attacks on airports and airplanes have been due to Middle Eastern attacks on the U.S. If we can pinpoint Takaki's concept of the other as quickly as possible, we can easily stop terrorism in its tracks right away.
Do you follow? We're the wrong people of the wrong skin on the wrong continent.
According to the challenge, airport screening without discrimination, Richard Reed boarded the flight. According to the testimony of the flight attendant that stood at the door, her intuition led her to suspect Richard Reed that there's something very wrong with him. And she stopped him at the door. She looked at his boarding card, and when she saw the name Richard Reed, suspicion disappeared. And then, when he answered some special question in a perfect English accent, he became completely innocent in her eyes. So, if we need to prove why racial profiling doesn't serve us well, then there it is.
Exactly. An individual's race does not decide their actions, beliefs, or ways of life. My people were sent to internment camps in 1942 by President Theodore Roosevelt after the Japanese attack of Pearl Harbor. This is the same exact thing. My family was innocent, but because someone of Japanese descent committed a crime, we had to leave our homes and were openly discriminated against. Origin does not matter.
How can you say that? Origin and race is everything. Many of the offenders are scared off when the price of getting caught is higher than the importance of what they are trying to achieve, according to Landis' article on an economic study of aircraft hijacking.
Justice don't mean nothing to a hateful heart.
But even our next president believes in racial profiling. Donald Trump even said, "I think profiling is something that we're going to have to start thinking about as a country." Other countries do it. You look at Israel, and you look at others, they do it, and they do it successfully. And I hate the concept of profiling, but we have to start using common sense. And we have to use our heads.
According to Brandon Gale, think about who can be a Muslim. Anyone can convert to this religion. That means that anyone of any race from any country could be a potential terrorist, not just someone who follows a strict dress code or has an Arabic appearance. People aren't stupid. When they see airport racial profiling going on, they will adapt so that they can avoid these security measures. The Chechens recruited female bombers specifically because Russian security wasn't as thorough with them as they were with the men.
Exactly right. Anyone can be a terrorist, even white people.
I also read this article from CNN. It reads, "It's essential for U.S. security that airport screening be done. But we need to stop the inflation of procedures that make our society more afraid and less secure. The TSA needs to stop and evaluate these methods to make them more effective, less invasive, and to not discriminate against race based on race or religion."
Exactly. I bet this security officer right here, thought I was Muslim just because of my name and my race. Well, actually, I'm not. I'm an apostate, and he just thought that I'm just a Muslim radical because of my race.
Well, actually, Jose,
Actually, it's Amir.
like I was saying, according to the Martinosi and Barnett on the effectiveness of airport security screenings, the primary screening is 20% effective at finding terrorists, and the secondary screening is 85% effective. And I don't think I'm saying this just because I'm white. I've got a black wife and 2 happies at home.
What? You're married to a Negro?
Yeah, I got a problem.
This world is disgusting.
Must be nice to not have to deal with discrimination. You have no idea how often it happens. White supremacy is alive and well, thanks to men like you.
Airport security discrimination case informed me about Eduardo Cure, who was about to catch a Continental Airlines flight home on New Year's Eve when he ran into a former professor of his. Cure lent the professor his cell phone and once on board went to the professor's seat to retrieve it. Another passenger saw the 2 brown-skinned men conferring and became alarmed that they and another man were behaving suspiciously. The 3 men were taken off the plane and forced to get later flights. The incident is now the subject of a lawsuit by the ACLU. Several features of Kurek's story are worth noting. First, he was treated unfairly, and that he was embarrassed because he was wrongly suspected of being a terrorist.
Exactly. This is why organ race does matter. Why do you think I volunteered to get searched anyways?
I also read that article, and it said, a fellow passenger, taking account of his apparent ethnicity, his sex and age, and his behavior, could reasonably come to the conclusion that he was suspicious. Third, passengers' anxieties and their inclination to take security matters into their own hands increase when they have a good reason to worry that the authorities are not taking all reasonable steps to look into suspicious characters themselves. If airport screeners do not profile passengers with characteristics similar to those of the terrorists who attacked us, if, as seems to be the case, they go so far in the other direction as to subject people who do not have those characteristics to greater scrutiny, then the passengers will do some profiling on their own. But anyhow, what say do you even have in this situation? You don't even have a passport. I mean, are you even legal?
Well, since you asked, I was born in Guatemala, but according to Inquiry's Journal by Beatrice Mans, but the Civil War in Guatemala was the longest struggle in modern Latin American history, spanning decades, from the late 1950s to the 1990s, and leading to deadly armed conflict between government and rebel militias that claimed hundreds of thousands of lives and made millions of others homeless. Leading up to and during the Civil War, the masses of Guatemalan society were consistently dominated by a class of elites who owned the vast majority of the land. Much of this land was also owned by multinational corporations such as the U.S. owned United Fruit Company in the 1940s and 1950s, which had little concern for the well-being of local populations.
And actually, I'm legal as well. I came to America legally through marriage. The term picture bride refers to a practice that came early in the 20th century by immigrant workers who married women on the recommendation of a matchmaker who exchanged photographs between the prospective bride and groom.
Well, actually,
I live in America and work as a housekeeper.
what's wrong with you?
I got bit by rats and it's starting to itch.
So you're not legal?
Sir, can I see your identification?
Why, yes.
Please come with me, sir.
Me for what reason?
I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but we just have to do a random search every once in a while. It won't take long.
Serves him right.
Right this way, sir.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
This is absurd. Did you see all the people out there? Arabs, Asians, even blacks, and you choose me?
Sir, I'm really sorry for the inconvenience. It's just protocol, nothing personal.
So annoying.
Put your arms and legs.
Just had to choose me.
Thank you for understanding and being so cooperative.
Oh, are we done already? That wasn't so bad. I don't know why everybody makes such a fuss about it.
Well, between you and me, we treat our own a little differently. I know that you aren't a terrorist, so I'm not going to waste my time doing the strip search. Last call for security screening. All gates are now open. Thank you. Your flag. Thank you. Have your flag.
Thank you.
And you were sweet.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have your
sir.
flag. Have your flag. Have your flag, please. Screening. Do you have your passport?
My what?
Your passport?
What's that?
To get on the plane?
No, I don't have that.
No, I'm sorry, you can't board on that.
I can't go on the plane.
No, not with your passport.
National origin is a negative aspect of airport security. Looking at origin just fortifies the concept of the other and reinforces racialization of negative, untrue stereotypes that have been built for centuries. June Jordan was right. We are the wrong people, of the wrong skin, on the wrong continent, but that's not how it should be.
Actually, as a matter of fact, airport security is important and mandatory to keeping safe and stress-free flights. You have to give up some privacy in replacement for security. With that being said, ma'am, you don't have your passport. Come with me. We have a runner.